Hello again, I'm Larry Hamilton. Thank you for watching my YouTube painting channel. Welcome. Today we're going to do an oil painting that will be used in my October 15th oil painting class. And I like to tell you that it's going to be an interesting scene that I sort of created out of two individual photographs. One was a fall scene with a bridge over a stream, and the other had a little rowboat in a stream with a bridge on the side of it. So I took the two photographs and put them together, and some artists call this a Frankenstein painting, where you mix parts together and come up with an entirely new painting. So that's what we're going to do today. And I have my photograph that I've cobbled together from a couple of photos, and I have my value map, which I usually do each time, and I also have my sketch completed here on the gray gesso covered canvas. We're painting on 11 by 14 canvas today, and I have a sketch drawn in with my white charcoal pencil. So I'll tell you we're going to also use the same brushes we've used before. It's a small set of brushes and a painting knife from Bob Ross. We have a 1-inch landscape brush. We have a number 3 fan brush and a small script liner, and I have a painting knife. I also add a couple of other brushes. I have a little filbert that I use from Dick Blick, and I have also a bright that I use from Dick Blick. So we'll be using those today, and it's the same as all my oil paintings. In addition, I'll go through the paints with you very briefly here. Have the same palette that I've used before. We have titanium white here, phthalo blue, Prussian blue, midnight black, Van Dyke brown, dark sienna, alizarin crimson, sap green, cadmium yellow, yellow ochre, Indian yellow, and bright red. And you see I have them mounted on my vertical glass palette here that has a gray tone behind it that's very similar to the gray tone that's on the canvas. So I have a means of sort of giving myself a mid-value gray to look at while we paint. So with the sketch on and the paints ready, I also have a little bit of liquid white, which I use periodically. Bob Ross has a color called liquid white, which is really a thinned down type of titanium white that is used to help the paint flow more smoothly and cover the canvas easier, more easily. And so we're going to start with that. Just a little bit of liquid white. Not going to have much sky in this painting. It's very soft and some distance back here, so I'm going to throw in just a little liquid white up here at the top to give myself an area for put in a little sky, a little bit of sky, a few spots over here maybe. Then we're going to have some reflections in the water that sort of come down this way. I'll put in some liquid white to sort of put that in right now to remind me where the water is going to be. I modify the Bob Ross painting technique by selectively using where I place liquid white on the canvas, because many of my students like to have a drawing to work from, so we use this canvas that's toned with gray gesso, and we put a small sketch over it, and we don't lose our drawing that way, and it allows us to put in some objects that we might not have otherwise been able to put in if they need a little bit of a drawing skill. So I usually provide a template for the students, and they are able to sketch this in. They don't have to have fears about inability to sketch or draw. So that is the beginning of our sky and our reflection in the water. And I'm going to start in the background now with this some very light trees. This is going to be a fall scene, but the trees in the distance are going to have a sort of a violet or whatever, and I'm going to start up here and start putting in some of these. Lay the sky over the top of them in a minute just to see what the value differences are here. Start with this. Usually I start with the sky, and I just blew right by the sky today for some reason. I'm thinking ahead of myself, so I'm going to pick up my little bright here and get some very light color, maybe a little bit of blue and sort of a purplish color here, gray it down with a little bit of brown. Just sort of, sky is not really all that bright back here. So I'm just laying this over the liquid white. Maybe just a little more blue in some spots here. And maybe I'll just pick up some more white as well and put in. So very, very light, very quiet, not too much going on up here in the sky. A few places over here will have some sky holes, so I'll just pop a little over there. Okay, let's see how that looks now. All right, back to my, let me get some greens and some oranges back there a little bit. Pick up a little of this bright red and Indian yellow. Start putting in a few trees back here that have a little bit of yellow in them, maybe a little orange popping up here and there. This is very soft and abstract, not a lot of specific trees. Just a whole lot of trees back in there, and I'm mixing my colors really with the brush on the canvas and thinking what would be a nice fall scene, at least in the part of the country where I live. Put a few greens over here on the right. I'm just sort of blending these over, laying it over the sky. I'll come back and maybe touch in a few more darks in there to identify those trees a little better. Over here we're going to pick up some other colors of green, dark green. To get that green a little darker, I'm using sap green here with a little bit of Prussian blue in it. And we will end up with some darker colors that give us a little more depth. So I'm just laying the brush and just kind of pushing in, pushing up, mixing up the stroke. It's not big, broad brush strokes of any kind. This bristle brush actually makes some, because it's roundedness, it gives you some nice effects at the end of the brush, and we can make this have some very nice looking trees back here. I'm going to put a little more yellow in this, pick up a few more of these reds maybe over here in some spots. Just making an interesting background layer here. Okay, let's stop with that big brush. I'm going to go back and get my little bright here that I started with a while ago. I'm sorry, this is my filbert. And pick up a few more of these dark blues, Prussian blue, sap green. Start laying in another layer of a little darker trees in here. If you remember our atmospheric perspective, we have to have something lighter in the distance to give ourselves some nice looking depth in a painting. You want to have lighter colors in the distance. Most landscapes have lighter colors. They tend to sort of get bluish or a little purplish or lavender color as they recede in the distance. And as they come forward, they start getting brighter and more distinct. So you want to have this mixture of colors here, but you want to have the values get slightly darker as they come forward. And by doing that, you're helping create the illusion of distance in your painting. Okay, something like this. And here, we'll pick up a few of these brighter yellows. We're going to get some brighter yellows in some of these areas along, particularly over alongside this bridge. This is all really light, bright colors along here. I'll be starting to put some of those in. Behind the bridge, we want it. The bridge is is a little bit dark. It's sort of a brownish color. So I want the colors behind it to help it stand out, so I don't have it, the background has to be lighter than the bridge, or it has to be darker than the bridge so that you can see the bridge. Otherwise, you won't know what that thing is right there. Okay, and I'm mixing up my colors, throwing in some red, throwing in some yellow, and the reds will gray down the greens. So we end up with interesting colors here that make up this forest, this whole bank of trees back here. And let me see, I want to keep that soft and not too descript above this bridge. So I'm just feathering it out, making it very light, putting in some colors that are going to flow together here with this bridge. Brighten it up, get some nice bright oranges in here. And some bright yellows maybe. So I'm not cleaning my brush a whole lot here. I'm sort of just painting and mixing on the brush, on the canvas, combinations of colors that abstractly say to me, this is a field of whole bank of trees back here, that's sort of a bank that runs down into this water. And that's what I want to show here. Pick up a few ochres maybe. Ochre and green make some good colors. Leaving some room for some tree trunks in there. Pick up a little Prussian blue, darken it down a little bit. There's some areas in here that are very dark. Okay, stop a minute and step back. I always like to step back, get away from the painting, see if it's starting to look the way I want it to. Give me some distance. I have some interesting distance here going on, which looks good from when I step back. Looks much better. I always have the problem of being too close to the painting and can't see the Can't see the forest for the trees. Maybe that's where that phrase came from. Get too close to something and you don't realize you're in a forest because you're painting all these little bitty trees here, but you're really painting a forest. And when you want to get back and look at it, you want people to recognize this is a forest of trees. All right, getting some balance. Okay, I think that'll do for that right now. Let me see. I want to get I also have another brush that I forgot to tell you about, but I've told you about before. It's this. It's really a brush that would typically be used for watercolors. It's a flat wash brush, and it has some nice, very sharp edges on it, and I can get some nice sharp places around things like bridges and around boats, and around this boat that's in this particular painting. And just realized my brush is a little bit worn, and I'm going to see if I can find another brush here. I don't think I cleaned it out very well. It seems to have bristles have gotten hard on me, so fortunately, because I have some extra brushes here, I'm able to pop another one out of my background here and or out of my cabinet. Okay, here we go. I'm going to start on this bridge now with this fine half-inch wash brush. It's a golden Taklon, which is it's a nylon type created brush where they bake the nylon, and it gives it some very nice effects, very much like bristles or hair from an animal would, but it's because it's baked, it thickens it up a little bit and gives it the same sort of texture. So this bridge back here is something like this. We're going to put in our horizontal looks, put a little blue in that to gray it down. Blue will sort of gray down the browns. Something like this. Got a couple of horizontal bars here. This is a bridge that's kind of high over a stream. Change the color a little bit, add some more red to it to make it a little more orange maybe. Here like this. These are very thin because it's pretty far away. Like that. Pick up some of this other gray color maybe. See, you can tell the difference. If I make it the same value as what's behind it, you can't see the bars of this bridge. If I darken it, you'll be able to see it. That's part of making this look like it has the depth that one's in front of the other. It's all part of the optical illusion we create when we paint. A few other colors in here, and we actually have a nice area here, sort of orange, has some dark color in it from moldiness or whatever gets on these bridges. Lighten it up a little bit, add some colors, white. Okay, this is giving me some of that look that I want. Another post back there. Get away, step back, see if that looks like the top of a bridge going across there. Underneath it, it's very dark. A dark band sort of goes all the way across here, like this. Don't want to make it too straight. In reality, it probably is very straight since it's a man-made bridge. However, when we're taking something that is maybe 30, 40 feet long and putting it down on canvas where it's 8 inches wide, you have to abstract and make it look almost a little cartoonish to make it look right. So these are some beams underneath here. Get myself all there's a tall post here that holds it up in the water. Okay, so that's our bridge pretty much. Let me see if I can put a few more colors in here to sort of pull it down, make it, tie it together a little bit, vary the colors, vary the shapes. You hear me say that often, but it's part of making these things look more abstract, and it gives a better painting feel to these. And I'm not trying to make them look like a photograph. I'm trying to make them look painterly, if that's a term, I don't know. Okay. So what do we have behind? Underneath that bridge we see more grasses, more bushes back in the distance. So I'm going to get my filbert back out now and see if I can put a few more of those in. I've got a couple layers back there. One sort of a dark, fairly dark green layer back here. This area. Lighten it up a little bit, maybe. So it has some of that color that's above the bridge. And if we mess up our bridge, we can always come back and restate some of these. Okay, now it's getting lighter back there. I just want to just merge these together, make some brush strokes that go left to right, help tell you what that is back there. Stop, step back, take another look. Okay, we've been going about 25 minutes. We're making some good time here. I have to repaint these posts, I think. In here, underneath this bridge, it's very dark again, so we're going to pick up another layer of dark greens. This is the shadow that the bridge is casting on the grasses underneath it. And over here there's a few. Alright, something like this is, I'm going to put some water back here so we actually see the water behind this bridge as well. Start picking up some lighter colors here, get me some yellow and white, see if I can brighten this area up. The sun is really hitting like right in here, like this. So I want to try to brighten up these areas where I know the sun is sort of beating down in these areas. It also gives us some nice color differentiation and value differentiation. Something like this, bushes, trees, all kind of stuff in here. Okay, that's pretty close to what I want to say there. This right side, I'm going to pick up some more orange, bright orange over here. So laying in a few trees and bushes over this way and kind of echo that color over here a little bit. Give ourselves a little bit of balance, harmony, maybe even some over this way. Put it in now and we'll use it later. So these are all sorts of bushes and trees and grass and stuff just kind of laying down on the ground here. The ground and underneath the ground underneath is going this way. It's sort of sloping down, but on top of it we have these grasses that are growing vertically. So we want to try to show that where we can, but we can have the marks underneath that tell us there's grasses on top and that sort of thing. Okay, we're getting a nice set of orange there. I'm getting a little depth. So this is all going to be water back in here, so I'm going to make it, there's a little peninsula that I'm going to come around here in this area. Kind of sticks out. This bridge sort of has a post in there. Okay, I can darken that up, make it a little darker at the bottom here, where it touches the water and starts putting in some reflections. We're going to get some reflections in this water as we go, but I want this bank to be a little dark in some areas. It helps also with the optical illusion that I'm trying to create of depth. All right, let's see, I put some dark in here. We want some of that dark inside these bushes over here to help give them some depth. And we'll pick up some more colors here and a lot of fall colors here. Okay, let's stop with that and look at it for a minute. Some paper towel. Okay. All right. Where else do I want that rust color? Maybe I want some over here. top of this boat's going to be darker than, I want the boat to stand out, so I want this to be a little darker than the top of the boat, so I'm going to make sure I make that darker. Alright, so far I've used only a couple of brushes. I've used this filbert and my half-inch flat wash brush. I did use the little bit of my big 1-inch wash brush on the sky, but other than that, this has been about a 2-brush painting. So we have back here, we have some tree trunks that I want to put in. Some areas back here to start tying this together. These dark vertical strokes will tell you we have some trees out here. Put some through the opening in the sky up there. Some over here. These brushes, even a filbert, it doesn't get very thin on top, so to make a vertical tree trunk, sometimes I need a thinner brush. That's why I use this other flat wash brush. It has some very sharp edges on it. You can also use the painting knife, put some of those in. You've probably seen me do that before. Take a little roll of paint on the edge of this painting knife and come in here and put in some vertical marks like this. Something like that gives us the indication there's trees and trunks back there. The other thing that we do from time to time is we use the point of the knife and we will scrape in some vertical marks that look like white tree trunks back there in the distance. So we can have this sort of look happening. Gives us something like that. It's probably very hard for you to see that on the video, but when you do it, you'll know what's happening, and it helps give more depth and more definition to those trees back there. I have a little bit of canvas showing right through here. I'm going to have to touch it up a little bit. There. Throwing a few more bright yellows up here maybe. Sun is hitting on a number of branches and lightening up some of the leaves out here. Okay. All right, that's enough of that for now. Let's put in a few more, cover some of this canvas over here. Pick up some of my blues, maybe a little white, lighten it up, get a little bit different color, throw in some of the yellow, see if I can get some different colors of green going on here. Gray it down with red. I actually have like a bank-like area that has some like a little road or something that comes in over here from this side and comes down the bank. It's a launching area for people to bring their boats in, I think. So we'll just make that happen right now. Pick up some ochre, put some white in it. Go around this boat with our colors. So this is all part of the shoreline over here. Comes out like this. It's got some darker colors in it. Get some darker colors. Pick up some of this. A little of that violet, ultramarine violet, helps gray these colors down as well. And I'll darken that up in a minute, make it look a little more like there's some light hitting back there in the distance. Back in here, there's a few white streaks where light is hitting on something. I can't quite make it happen there yet. Let me try it again. White on my brush. Just sort of hit back here like this to give it some definitions. Helps indicate shadows, sort of thing. The bank is coming down this way. At this point, it's coming down to this road or access area. And we have some really bright colors in here from the sun hitting this area. So I can kind of show you what I want to there. These areas in here are darker even. A lot of so these colors are complementary colors. Off to the left there kind of indicates there's some sort of a road or something that way over there. A bank at least where people can bring their boats in. All right. The other side has similar types of things going on. They're a little bit different in color. Pick up some white, mix it with my this bank over here is slightly different. But it comes down and has a lot of rocks in it and fairly abstract over here as well. Okay, I haven't painted the water in the stream yet, but you can see the water showing up in the gray canvas here. Whites. Bring some of that same color over here, see if we can kind of connect it a little bit, make it look like it's part of the same. Bring that color back over here. We're going to have rocks and things out here, so I'm not too concerned about what that looks like right now. I just want to get it kind of covered. Could use my big brush. I could go get my palette knife, all what kind of ways to cover this canvas right here. I just want to get this little base coat underneath here and put it down very quickly. Okay, that's going to give me the undercoat that I need. So the rest of this is all water and reflections, vertical reflections and all water. So we now have pretty much our background and our bridge in back there, and I'm going to come back now and start with the water and bring it forward and come down to the boat. How are we doing on time? About 40 minutes almost. All right, water in the distance. This really wasn't in the photograph this way, but I'm doing it to give myself some depth and add a little more interest behind this bridge. The original photograph was sort of indistinct here, what was going on back here. So I'm using titanium white and some phthalo blue. clean my brush out with my paper towel here. Probably could have left those posts out and done those later. Actually, the water is starting to take on some of the reflectivity of the stuff above it. Actually, down here there's a total reflection of the bridge down here. So I'm just using this liquid white that's on here and sort of helping me spread the color, add a little blue here and there, but it's pulling the colors down out of the above, picking up some of this as well. So you're seeing the creation of this water. This big brush is always good for blending. This landscape brush is really good for coming back after you put some vertical strokes in to sort of blend it this way, and you start getting these nice soft looking reflections there that make it look like it's water. It's all optical illusion, folks. So I'll do some more of this with this filbert brush, and I'm going to go back and put this little peninsula in here. I sort of blew right over it with my water. It sort of touches at the bottom of this here like that, and then our post get it back in, make sure it's there. Yeah. These other posts over here, I kind of painted those out of existence as well. So I'll just taking this violet color and lightening it up a little bit, and see if I can get a couple more of these posts over here like that. Alright, this should be just a little darker underneath there since it is in shadow. One side of it anyway. The left side, if you make anything darker on this bridge, try to make the left side darker than the right side. Probably can't even see that, but I can see it. Underneath here, this is pretty dark. Go back and restate that using black. There, okay, so it's helping to redefine this bridge and the posts coming down that support it. Okay. When I paint this again before class, I will probably change a little bit how I do this, maybe, because every time you do a painting, you learn a little bit about how to do it, how to improve it, and what to paint first and what to paint second. Okay, here we go. So we have water flowing out here. There's a lot of colors in this water. Right in here we actually have that reflection of the bridge that I'm going to come up and start putting in here. I'm going to get my little sharp brush here, this wash brush, and see if I can get a color that looks like we're reflecting this bridge. What's going to tell you that's a bridge? It's going to be the little vertical posts that are sitting above it. Come on here, brush, get thin on me. So it's something like this we have in there that gives us the indication that that's a reflection of parts of that bridge. And I'll sort of gloss over that. This is again the bank over here that's going to start having some rocks and other stuff in it. Picked up a little bit of alizarin in my brush to give myself some darks. Look like maybe some rocks here. Too dark. But with oil paints it's really easy to correct these kind of things. Much easier than, say, watercolors. Alright, that's getting a little bit of the look I'm trying to achieve. Alright, clean this brush out. I continually wipe my brush and my paper towel. When you see me go back to the palette here and pick up other colors, sure, it looks like I'm just putting color on top of color. Sometimes I am, but most of the time I wipe my brush out with this paper towel that I keep in my left hand all the time, so that I get purer colors than you might think, because it looks like just piling color on top of color. Put a little blue in this for the sky up here. Alright, so I'm getting some reflections now of this water over here that's got... This is all water again, so you have to make it almost look like the sky with this gradations in it. But you can, by putting pulling down vertical colors like this, coming back, putting in the greens, the other colors you see in the background here, these yellows and greens, you start telling the viewer that this is really water. This is going to, under here is going to reflect the boat, but I want to have some nice yellows that are above that boat as well. And again, the way to do it in water is make these streaks somewhat vertical. Okay, give ourselves just a little more softness. I can come in here and just sort of blend these. Take one stroke, wipe it off with the brush so you don't carry the colors back into the paint. All right, step back, look at it. Is it looking like a bridge in the distance with the water coming by it? Yes, it is. Even got this little reflection of the bridge here to some degree. All right. All this over here on the left is going to be reflecting this sky color up here. I'm just going to pick up some colors and start throwing in some colors that's going to go in this water. Using this big brush. Picking up blues, picking up my black, picking up my purple, picking up my green, yellow. See, I'm leaving that boat out. Everything else is getting painted around that boat. darker, make this corner darker. Okay. So what color is water? It has no color. It picks up the colors that are around it, that are under it, that are beneath it. It reflects whatever its surroundings are. So to paint green in the water like that makes it look like it's reflecting what's above it. Put a little more fine detail in there, but right now I'm going to stop. I see some areas of the canvas here that doesn't have quite anything on it right here. That's going to be the reflection of the boat, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. Okay, let's stop with that. All right, over here I want this to be darker yet. It's still not quite dark enough to suit me. I want these corners to be darker if possible. Okay, and we'll sort of give it a little horizontal brushing. Okay, how are we doing? All right, that's pretty nearly complete. I mean, I can fine tune and mess with it for another couple hours if I want, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to work on this boat and the reflections of the boat, and then some fine details here with rocks and debris here on this bank, and that will be it. Our boat color is I'm going to see if I can make using ochre and bright red. See what kind of color I get out of that. If I get maybe add just a little dark sienna to darken it up just a little bit in some spots. Maybe add a little of this violet over here. Okay, so I have maybe 3 colors here, 3 values that might be good for that boat. It's a good way to see what colors you're working with. So I used ochre and bright red for the lightest color, and then I added a little bit of dark sienna for mid value, and I added a little of my ultraviolet for the dark value. So you want to have 3 values for this as much as you can. Start here and start putting this thing in. Bit of darker color down here at the bottom. If we can pick that up. Under here, a little darker color. It gets darker as it goes around the back side. It has this curve to it that actually gets dark here in the front. Or the back, depending on which way you think this boat is pointing. So I'm just sort of following the little sketch here that we have and making it as close as possible. I'm using this filbert again, so the bristles are kind of wide as a oil painting brush. Don't give sharp edges. And I want some sharp edges in here in some areas. I'm going to pick up my other brush now, this flat wash brush, and see if I can put in just a little of this top rail here. Top is the back side of this boat. Has some color change in it. Okay, you can see just a little bit over the top of it, but it basically has a highlight edge all the way along here to sort of define this. There's a little bit of an edge in the back even, where the sun is hitting back here. Something like that. Starting to look like a boat. There might even be a little of this orange color in here in between. Having trouble making that happen. All right, maybe it's time to get my little script liner out here and see if I can do some damage with it. For really, really fine lines, you take a script liner and get some thinner on your brush and thin the paint down and put it on the palette, get it kind of runny, and you'll make some nice thin lines in here, hopefully. You have enough paint on the brush. I'm kind of painting the inside of the back side of the boat here. Trying to do that anyway. You get some lighter color, pick up some more white. Bit of coloring in here. This is probably a little more detail than you want to get into, but it helps to make sure this looks like a boat as opposed to anything else. There's a few darker lines under here. Let me pick up some of this dark sienna and myself a little darker color here that maybe I can put in a few dark lines here, help identify there are boards on this boat. It has a sort of a wood surface that's joined boards. It's a little hard to see with that. Need to make it more runny, I believe, because it's not coming off the brush. Anytime you can't get paint to come off the brush, usually you need to thin down the paint that you're painting with. It needs to be thinner. As I remember Bob Ross used to say, a thin paint will stick to a thick paint. So if you have thick paint on your canvas and you want paint on top of it, thin that paint down with thinner or some medium or something, and it will stick and paint over what's there. Pick up a little more of my darker Van Dyke brown here, see if I can get a few more dark things in here like this. Anything like that helps tell the story of what this object is in the water. There's a few sort of grayish spots here in the middle that I want to retouch. It's a little too light. Darken them down. Still not dark enough. Come on. It's a story of contrast. You got to have contrasting colors here to make it look right. Down here we have some light down here. that. We have a highlight on the other side of this boat over here, like this. That sort of blends back in. I'll pull it back this way. Okay, it's starting to show that front edge. All right, not quite as much light at the rear because the sun is really coming from the right over here. Darken this up just a little and blend it. Use the brush and just kind of pull it. Follow the contour of the boat so that any brush stroke you leave on there has this contour of the boat on it. All right, I think that's looking like a little boat sitting there. Now we just have to make the reflections underneath it. I'm going to go back to my little flat brush here. It has little sharper edges, and I'm going to grab some of this dark color that we've had, sort of put it underneath now. Now these are going to be pulling down. We're pulling down. Why? Because we're reflecting this boat in the water. Vertical strokes will tell that story a lot better than any other type of brush stroke. Something like that. We've got the, make sure I have the bottom of this defined here. Okay. Nice soft colors in there. Edges. And then we're starting to get more of these colors reflected in the water above that boat. So let's pull those down over here. This bank on the left side is really has to be a little better defined. Okay. More greens, put in a few more reflections here. Actually going to pick up some dark vertical streaks. Where's my dark? Come on. So let me get some of these things that look like the trees are reflecting down this way. A bit too wide. But I'm going to make them slightly fuzzy with my big 1-inch brush, and as we dry it out, clean it out, and then come across like this. Wipe it out, come back across that, wipe it out, again, wipe it out, pull it across. Actually, I wiped some of those out altogether, actually, but on the camera it's looking like it's a nice reflections. Okay, over here I'm going to see if I can pop in a few spots of small rocks and debris. I'm going to do that, I think. I'll try this filbert. The filbert may be too big for some of this. I'm not sure. First of all, let's see if I can pop in a few sky hole colors here. You're looking at these trees, you're seeing the sky reflected through these trees. And then we're going to have some leaves and other debris here floating around in the water. So I'm just using whatever comes off the brush, comes off the brush. I'm not trying to paint specific leaves, I'm trying to leave this very loose Pick up some more here. So these are things that are floating on top of the water, so they're not part of the reflective stuff. They're just things that are in the water, on the water. Leaves and that sort of stuff. Put a few out here, a few more over this way. It's helping to tell the story again that this is water that's not really moving all that fast, but it's probably not moving much at all. But it is ready to be used. Okay, let's see if we can put some darker rocks and things in here. Get some grays down here. There's some rocks that are kind of laying in the water. In the water, on the bank. So again, I'm just putting some midnight black on this filbert and just sort of letting it skip across, make some little indentations, things that look like they might be rocks. More debris, more junk, more leaves hanging around. So I'll do the same with the leaves and stuff over here in a second. I want to get some of these darks on. So we're getting some interesting little abstract shapes over here that represent rocks. I don't want this to be too interesting. You've heard me talk before about making these corners, making areas around the edge of the painting fairly abstract and not too distinct, because you don't want the eye to go over here, you don't want the eye to go here, you want the eye to sort of go here and then move around the painting this way and come around in circles like this. So if you make something really bright and interesting on the corner over here, the eye is going to go there and it won't go to your focal point. So think about that when you're making compositions. I actually have too much brightness right here. I'm going to have to tone it down because it's competing, and even this brightness here is probably competing a little bit. So as you step back and look at your painting, you can start seeing areas that you need to sort of tone down, make them less distinct or make them more abstract. I talk about abstraction a lot because you're abstracting life, real life here, and when you're taking something that's this large, you know, this could be a scene that's, you know, 30 feet, 50 feet wide back here, and you'd be standing here and you're maybe looking at a 10 to 20 foot area, and you're trying to make this all fit on a canvas that's only 14 inches wide. So by definition, you're abstracting everything you see. So you want to have pleasing abstract shapes, and you want to have it so you can focus the eye, get the viewer looking at the right places where you want them to. I'll start putting in some other colors here to sort of make it look like we've got some other kinds of debris floating around here. More leaves and that sort of thing. Actually, I can pull this tree down and kind of make it go off the edges over here, pick up some blues and greens and sort of finish this off. I kind of left that tree hanging there. I want to make it look like it belongs. But all this over here, I just sort of want it to be abstract, nothing too distinct. And you know, you can just sort of pull your brush up and make it look like there's some weeds or whatever out here. Go back, put in some more rocks. Things like rocks, I could spend, you know, probably 3 hours just painting a bank of rocks over here if I wanted to spend that much time. I know I would put you to sleep for sure if I did that. So I'm trying to get this done in a reasonable amount of time and yet give you the feeling of what this thing is supposed to look like as a it's an interesting painting. Some of the rocks, there's a few rocks out here that could have some highlights on the top and some shadows on the bottom. So I'm just going to kind of put those there, come back and pick up some of my violet color and put a little shadow underneath them like this. You could have some shadow over here on some of these little things. These could be rocks, these could be leaves or other types of debris. Any stroke you leave, try to leave it horizontal when you're doing something like this. You don't want it to be, unless you want to show the bank actually dropping down, try to avoid vertical strokes over here. Some over here I pulled down at an angle because this was showing this kind of coming down this way to this boat launch. Example right there, I want to pull that down a little more. Okay, give that a little more distinctness. All right, stop, walk back, look away, take a fresh look. Where does the eye go? When you look there, I see the brightest bright against the darkest dark is this right there. Your eye goes there, then it kind of moves this way, comes around, back this way. So it's a way to test your composition to see where the eye goes. Step back and look at it, and if it's not going where you want, you're going to have to somehow change the values, maybe change the colors, put a pop of red somewhere. But this is okay. This is a good spot for the eye to go right here. If you take the rule of thirds, that's a good spot. And so the eye will go there. It may follow this bridge around. The bridge is not taking your eye off. Why? Because I've blocked it from going off over here on the right side. Make sure we've got dark colors over there to block this in so the eye doesn't go flying off the right side. The only place I'm a little disturbed about is this side over here. I have this open area, and I think I'm going to come back and put something here to sort of block off this area and make it look like there's some other trees or something hanging out here on the left side. Again, that's not in the painting. I'm doing that because I want to try to improve the composition so that it does not lead your eye out of the painting but keeps your eye in the painting. So many of the good artists, the best artists, really work on these kinds of things. Contrast, make sure this is darker than what's behind it, otherwise you won't know what it is. So I can sort of do this. I could actually darken my corners just a little more because they're still a little bit too light, I feel. So I'll just put in some more brush strokes that make it look like there's more rocks and stuff over here. This is really water over here. The only thing I can really do to it to darken this corner to keep the eye in the painting is to basically darken down these reflections a little more. So I can put in some more Prussian blue or phthalo blue. I actually was trying to get, the effect I was trying to get here was the effect of the sky reflecting through the trees back here. Don't think I was too successful with that, but yours will probably be better. But this will help keep the eye more in the painting. Again, leave abstract shapes in here. Don't look at the negative shape. Don't leave it square or rectangular or whatever. I see another big area. Some of you may have heard me talk about the 2-inch rule. Like if you look at your painting and say every 2 inches you should find a little painting. So I have this viewfinder that I have, that view catcher, helps me find compositions, but I can also take it and put it over the painting and look to see if I have, every 2 inches I have something going on that's nice. Each one of those could almost make a little painting. If you do that, if you have something going on in these areas, color, value change, you will probably have a pretty successful painting. And I'm going to show you in a second an area that I think needs some attention here. See, there's something going on all the way across. This area right here is almost too bland. It's almost all one color, one value. So I'm going to come back to that and see if I can make it more abstract and a little more going on. A 2-inch square, if I put a 2-inch square there, there's nothing much different going on there. So it's a good way to assess your painting. You don't have to buy one of these things. You can just make yourself a little cardboard rectangle or whatever and use it. But the idea is to look at these areas and try to see, do I have an area that's got too much of the same stuff going on? Maybe I want to come in here and brighten it up with some other, maybe some other reflections in here that I could put in. Pull in some bright colors to help bring the eye around. And again, it's kind of up to you what you want to do, but try to make your paintings have these areas that are not too boring and same thing going on all over them. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to get my big brush again and take a couple of swipes here and just sort of blend that out a little bit. Blend this out down here a little bit more. And I think I may just about leave it at that. Let me take one more look. Step back, look at it, see what it looks like. Okay, it looks like you could almost walk in that river and just walk all the way back there. You could almost walk over and get in that boat if you wanted. Okay, I think with that, I'm going to zoom my camera back and tell you that's it for today. And I hope you give this painting a try and let me know how you do on it. And till I see you again, this is Larry Hamilton saying so long for now. Goodbye.